Well, this is the Chicago History Project, and I'm really excited to be here.
Um, Maggie, we were just talking a bit about the difference between being a dancer in New York and in Chicago, and the feeling that you had as a younger choreographer that somehow New York was the place to be. And do you want to talk a little bit more about where you got that feeling and how you responded to it? And do you think that's lessened over time for Chicago choreographers today?
Do you think that's less of a
Yeah,
problem now?
yeah. I'm just wondering, do you think it has lessened over
Well,
time?
what I was thinking about at the time, I think, was innovation. And, that
Yeah.
was when Judson Church was really doing all this exciting stuff. And Sally Baines was writing about it and
Yeah.
all of that. Um, and But I used to go, I had studied in New York because I'd studied just, although only for
Right.
like the June course at the Graham School. But then I would go when I was living here, I would go for a week or so and just take classes in different places.
Yeah.
And it always just seemed like it was the center of everything.
Yeah.
And also living in Washington, D.C., which is where I grew up, New York was the place to go. And, there was one time when we got a chance to do a performance with the Ethel Butler Dance Company at the Y in New York.
Wow.
And that was just like the most exciting thing ever,
Yes, yes.
I felt like the center was there, and Chicago never seemed like the center to me. But I've certainly gotten over that now. There's lots of bad things about living in the center, and there's a lot of opportunities here, and certainly the scene here has mushroomed like crazy.
Yeah. I have all these questions, but of course I'm immediately going off script because what was Ethel Butler's work like that did it feel quite similar to Graham's, or how had she gone in a different direction? I just would love to know more about that.
Well, the technique was Graham for sure.
Yeah.
It was what you call now old Graham, because Graham technique has developed in different directions. But we learned when we got good enough, we learned the falls, and you only fell to the left. It had this very strong sense of ritual, which I loved,
Right.
just because that's how I always was. But her choreography was, it was dramatic in the same sense that Graham's is. I can't say that it was the same, and it did use some of the same types of sources. Like she had a piece based on a play by William Butler Yeats called The Only Jealousy of Amar.
Yeah, yes. One of his dance plays. Yeah.
And what?
Yeah, one of his so-called dance plays. Yeah.
I didn't even
one
know.
Of Yeats's.
I didn't even know it was a dance play. So.
Yeah.
And she did that for quite a while. So I was in it eventually. When I got old enough, like early teens, I guess, I got to play the Woman of the Scythe, which was very exciting. And then she had a piece about Lincoln that was based on his three women. That would be his mother, his daughter, and his wife. And it was only three women that. And I think there was one that was, a little bit more lyrical, like somewhat related to Graham's. Now I can't remember what it's called. The one
Diversion of Angels.
Diversion of Angels, of course, yes. So no, it wasn't derivative. It was, it was her own thing. But it was very much Graham influenced.
Yeah, I hear you about that. So you came to Chicago, age 15, to study at the University of Chicago. Little less rare then than it would be now, since there were a lot of smart young high school age students at University of Chicago. There wasn't a dance program at Chicago then. You got involved in a dance club with a couple other dancers. You felt ambivalent, as you've written in your essay, about pursuing a dance career. You very much wanted to have a family. It didn't seem like you could do both. And it was really your husband, Eric Kast, who really encouraged you to push forward in your choreographic career. Do you want to talk, I'd love to talk more about some of your colleagues like Neville Black, but do you want to talk about that early, how Eric pushed you and how you kind of got that start choreographing in Chicago?
Well, once he pushed me hard enough, I went downtown and took ballet at Stone Cameron, and then, which was kind of a great experience. They're two very funny guys.
Yeah.
And then Alice Duboulay, which I really preferred their technique. It was less, forcing turnout and stuff like that. it was very much based on sort of balancing yourself. And then I really liked that, and they encouraged me to. I taught like the little kids to do bar with their arms like this, you know. And then I started teaching modern in an adjacent studio that was part of their complex there, and and then pretty soon I was just thinking about making dances, because that was, you know, how we learned it with Ethel Butler, because she taught us choreography according to the system of Louis Horst, you know, which is all in a book now, you know.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So we had classes in choreography from pretty early on.
Which is really impressive. Do you remember where you crossed paths with Neville Black? Jamaican born, came to the U.S. I've got some internet research that he was performing in Chicago nightclubs in 1953 or so. Of course, you know, I also then used to start working with him, I think in 59. But do you remember meeting him? And
no, I don't, but I do remember dancing with him in kind of nightclub things, and I have some photos of that. And I don't know whether he came to the basement of Ida Noyes, which is where the dance club met, the Orchesis Club met. He may have come to that, maybe taught a class for us, or maybe took a class with us.
Yeah.
The people that I know were involved with that were Carl Bowles, who went on to become a big Asian dance expert, and Annadelle Linton, who I've known ever since I was 6, who studied, who was with me with Ethel, and then went to Scheimer the year before me.
Yeah.
Even though she was the same age as I was, so she went there even a year younger.
Oh my God.
And is, as far as I know, is still dancing. She worked for the Bellas Artes in Mexico as a dance researcher.
Yeah.
And she doesn't communicate very much with me, so I don't know if she's even still alive, because we're all pretty old now.
Yeah. Fascinating, though. Fascinating. And again, I just would love, you know, to learn a little bit more about Neville Black. I know that, you know, it said he had some Humphrey Weidman training. He had Sybil Shearer training. I mean, do you remember him going off to New York for Humphrey Weidman, or do you know any of those facts about him?
No, I know he was with Sybil for a bit, with Sybil Shearer. But that is the only thing that I really knew about his background. But it was great working with him, and he did a piece to some part of Vivaldi's Seasons that I was in. And then we had a trio with another guy whose name I've forgotten that did some of this nightclub type stuff. And that was fun. You know, and then we did stuff for the University of Chicago, like at Court Theater for plays, maybe. So it was just, you know, he was looking for a dance partner, and I was looking for a dance partner.
There you were,
And then when we met Trincha Shapley, who had just come to town, married to Omar Shapley, then that's when we formed the dance company.
Okay, so it was really Trincha coming that led to the formation of the dance company.
And we were all dancing then at the last stage, which was in the same building that became Kenwood High School.
Okay.
And we were all choreographing for it also.
Wow, yeah.
Along with a couple of others. One of them was Helga Schultz, who was German trained.
Yeah.
Could you back up a little bit to the Ida Noyes and the dance club? And I have a question about how you found the dance club exactly, being at University of Chicago, and what your memories are of finding other people that had the interests that you had. I mean, did they advertise? How did you kind of find this place?
Well, the University of Chicago wasn't quite as big then as it is now, and the undergrad part was probably even smaller because it was mainly a graduate school. I think there was, I don't know how many people were in it, but not very many. And, you know, people ask me, how do I know dancers now in Chicago? Well, you find each other, you know. So Annadelle, who probably was, I think she came the same year I did to the university, but so that would be one connection. And how I actually met Neville, who was not part of the university, I don't really know. But I did do a lot with him, and that's speaking of spending time in the Caribbean, I went down there to teach with him in Jamaica later on.
So for the contemporary dance theater, your company that you founded with Neville and with Trencha, did you you each contributed works, or you didn't collaborate together and choreograph? Neville did a work, you did works, Trencha did works.
Yes, that is how it went, but especially with Trincha, there was a lot of contribution of movement ideas. You know, she didn't tell you exactly what to do. She just told you, you know, dance like a minotaur. So that's the piece that she did was called Minotaur Machia.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And it was very, she was used to working in a kind of more emotionally driven way. And Neville was more just show you the steps, as was I at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
2 questions about that time period too. What was different about the nightclub work compared to the other kind of dance? I mean, I'm thinking about these different forms of dance that you're doing ballet. So what would be different about conversations at University of Chicago, nightclub work, ballet work, modern work? What do you remember of moving between these spaces? Did it just feel kind of seamless? Were they very different?
Well, it was all just dance, I'm afraid. You know, I didn't, in terms of, I mean, my technique was being developed by ballet,
Right.
you know, how I could actually use my body. But when I went to New York and took, you know, like Cunningham classes, I mean, they're very ballet based anyhow, you know. I, you know, it was just like an extension of the same thing. And I'm sure I was not a good jazz dancer, but all I had to do was, you know, do what Neville told me. I mean, I'm sure I never got to be anything that would be acceptable as a jazz dancer in any way, because I didn't have the spirit of that at all. Not that I didn't like listening to jazz, you know, but I mean, it would not be me.
Would you call Neville a jazz dancer?
No, I would call him a Caribbean dancer.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, you've seen the Cubans dance here.
Yeah.
Have you seen them dance at a party?
Yeah,
I mean, wow.
yeah.
So the social dancing part, as well as
Yeah.
the social dancing part, but and also the theatrical dancing or more choreographic dancing. Is that what you mean
By what?
Well, like when you talk about the Cuban dancing and things like that.
Oh, well, I mean, Cubans, there's been a lot of Cuban dancers in Chicago.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And they do whatever is necessary for the piece, but when they go to a party, they can move every part of their body completely
exactly.
separately, immediately,
Yeah.
without any
Yeah,
need to even think about it.
yeah.
And I think Neville probably had that.
Had that
I don't
quality.
remember
Yeah.
it specifically, but I'm sure he did.
One other question from this time period, or actually it's broader than just the time period. When you mentioned that for you it was important to have dance or have a class or a technique go somewhere, tell me more about that. What was that? Why was that a value for you as a?
Well, that has to do with the physical development. Actually, it probably is quite similar to athletics. Like, you know, you have to warm up first. You have to get your body used to moving, and then you can push it to some different extremes. But if you get up and you try to just do everything all at once, you'll hurt yourself.
So less so as a story and more so just as the physicality of building.
That's why they call it a technique class. And this may be getting off topic, but there are a lot of ways of dancing that despise that technique or don't even consider that an important part of it.
Anti-technique.
They think that everything should just come from the soul, you know. I was definitely a technical dancer.
You were drawn to that
Yeah.
process of
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
And I wanted to get better at
get
it.
better.
And I didn't like interfering with it where I would feel like, well, I can't do this yet. I need to get there, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Another question, another person that's so intriguing that you worked with, Darlene Blackburn, and I know that she also had studied with Neville. So do you at all remember how you met her or what you did together? You know, did you cast her in a piece? Did she cast you in a piece?
Neither one, actually. I think she just took my modern dance classes at the Allegra. We didn't get as far as Allegra, but after I left Ellis Duberly, I was with, I think their names, Doreen Tempest and Robert what's his last name? Can't think of it now. Anyhow, they had the Allegro School of Ballet. They were English trained also, so it was similar to Ellis
Okay.
Duboulay. But it just that was where I had the opportunity to teach modern. And Darlene came into class for me, and I knew her through Neville, I
Yeah,
think.
right,
And
right.
she used to go to Jamaica to teach for Neville too. I
Too,
think.
wow, okay, yeah, that's, yeah, fascinating, yeah. As you know, Darlene's still alive and well.
Oh, good. I'm glad to
yes.
know because I haven't seen her for a long
Yes.
time. She's the one that told me that Neville had died because she was in more
Okay.
in more touch with him.
Okay,
And I
Okay,
hadn't
yeah.
known that. It was
Yeah.
quite a while back.
Do you know where he was from in Jamaica?
Yeah, I do. Now, Port
yeah, I know it's Port St. Anthony or,
Portland is the province.
okay.
It's the North Coast. It's the North Coast,
On
and
the
it's not
North
it's not
Yeah.
the big tourist center.
Yeah,
Although it isn't probably by now. It probably is, but I just can't think right now.
yeah.
But it could be. Could be
I
Port
was
St.
I was
Anthony.
reading a long interview recently with Rex Nettleford,
Hmm.
and who had was really kind of founded the Jamaican the National Dance Theater Company of Jamaica, and he was mentioning how before Neville went to the U.S. and then Neville went back and became a very important choreographer, 64 to 68 for that Jamaican company. But that he had been sort of, because Rex Nettleford was kind of, grew up kind of more on the outskirts or in the margins, and he said, and Neville did too, and he was kind of developing similar things, then went to the U.S., did all this work, and then went back. So I think Neville's just a fascinating figure.
Yeah, well, we saw a lot of Rex and also Noel Vaz, who was
Yeah.
his partner, and they were great. I mean,
Yeah.
And at that point, when I was there, the company was just kind of transitioning from being a community dance company
Right,
to being
right.
professional.
Yeah.
And I was only there like 2 summers, and that would have been either 59 and 60 or 60 and 61, something like that.
Yeah. So they were really just starting the company then. And
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so those summer intensives that they were just kind of really, I think, trying to develop dancers then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was great, though. So I got so used to being with people of color that I
Yeah.
would look in the mirror and say, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. And that's something that really stands out to us, or to me as a historian, about the kind of interracial dance company that you had at that moment. Did it feel atypical at that time or not? Or I'm just curious about what it was. I mean, now we're very accustomed to having interracial dance companies, right? And as a matter of fact, if we don't see dancers of color, we're like, what's going on here? But this was a very different time. So it just, was it the spirit of Hyde Park and being the tried and true, Hyde Parker, or do you have just
Well, I
sort of-
grew up in Washington, D.C. when it was a segregated city, and
Yeah.
my parents started the first interracial school. So
Yeah.
I was very used to being with people
Yeah.
of color, and,
Yeah.
in all circumstances. There was not a lot, but there was at least one dancer in Ethel Butler's company who was African American, and there was always people around.
Yeah.
But we didn't know about it the way we do now. We didn't look at a dance company and say, "What's wrong with them?" They don't
Right.
have-
Yeah. So it was part of your experience, but did it? Yeah. Well. But did it feel atypical in the Chicago context? I guess, given also, as you said,
Well,
you first came here like, oh my gosh, what a segregated city this is.
Oh yeah. Well. That was later though. No, I mean as I said, I expected myself to have more color when I looked in the mirror. But so that was an interesting and enjoyable thing to see.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was weird or anything. It was just like, hey,
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah. It was your reality. No,
Yeah.
I take it. Yeah, it was your reality. But from us, from a historical point of view, it really does stand out.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Because particularly in the 50s and the 60s, that whole sort of north side south side divide seemed pretty rigid, whereas in the 30s there had been a lot more crossover. The work that Ruth Page did with Catherine Dunham, and so anyway, just
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes,
I didn't know that Ruth Page worked with Catherine.
Yeah. Page and Dunham did really important work called La Guia Bless, and so there, and the whole kind of Federal Theater Project period.
Oh yeah.
In the late 30s, there was really a lot more integration black and white dancers and a lot more integration black and white dancers in the Federal Theater Project in Chicago than in New
Yeah.
York City, actually, interestingly.
Oh, interesting.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting into too much of my,
No, that's a historical question. I was wondering, was as you're settling into Hyde Park and getting involved in dance and literature and reading and studying and so on and meeting a partner, how much were you aware of, let's say, the Red Scare, the political climate? I mean, the social climate. How much is this in the world around you, close, far? Because it seems to me that connects to the Federal Writers' Park, the legacies of the Popular Front in Chicago, which had more interracial work, but now it's the 50s and early 60s, and there are these dynamics changing. So what do you remember about the context?
Well, I came out of the Red Scare of the 50s in Washington, which I was very close to because of my family, So I wasn't looking for any Red Scare when I came here, but I did marry a Marxist, and so I was. He immediately, at least when things got hot, like when in '68, he immediately, went out to Lawndale and started an organization that would be for people who lived in that neighborhood to be able to get jobs, and also, since he was a practicing psychiatrist as well as an internist, he was helping them develop their job skills in that area, and that meant reading Marx. And he immediately got fired by the Chicago Department of Mental Health, and founded
in '68
or
earlier.
No, '68. Yeah, I mean it was.
So he got fired for having reading Marx, for having read Marx, or for starting the Lawndale Project.
Well, no, Lawndale Project was his private organization he took the same people, and that had been with him.
So he took the people from the mental health department.
They were really his friends that he brought into the mental health department. And
then now he took them into Lawndale. Fabulous.
Right.
Yeah.
And that lasted for a long time.
Yeah.
That was exactly in '68, I can tell you, because I remember that was when I gave
So your parents and their circle had been targeted in the Red Scare.
Circle, I don't know. Was that's what I'm writing about now. So wait and read the book.
Oh, of course, I will be the first.
This is earlier. This is childhood in Washington.
This is the 50s.
Yeah.
So it's a separate subject. But I was very close to it, and I was very close to people that were on both sides of it.
Yeah.
Well, not by both sides. I mean, Democratic Socialist and left Socialist. Which is people don't realize now that this was people were very, very divided there.
Yes.
And in fact, not even Democratic Socialists. I should have just said Democratic, centrist, Democratic, and left wing.
Yeah.
The anti-communist left.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
No. The anti-communist left, yes, for centrist, yes. Sorry, I just had to keep track of who you were.
I'm
who you're talking about.
Too.
Yes,
no, but those sort of...
It's the anti-communist centrist and the very much anti-Vietnam War.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're first in Chicago, how much is that, the milieu, did you sense the legacies of the Popular Front, of Dunham, of Ruth Page, or did you feel like that was a kind of from another era?
Well, I knew about Dunham because my parents went to school with her. She was just a little older than my parents.
Right.
She was in the new anthropology department, which is where my parents were.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. It wasn't even called anthropology until got started then. Now, wait a minute. You asked about Dunham and...
How much was the 30s? How much as you're getting settled in Hyde Park and in Chicago, how much, do you remember a sense of the legacies of people who had been working in the previous 20 years? Or did you feel like that was from another time? Had the war World War II sort of interrupted that? Probably
true that it had interrupted that. Although there was still, we had student government at the U of C, and there was a left and a right party, and there was at least one other person on the left side who had been in Washington, and his parents, I think, had been involved in
Yeah.
whatever, got them into trouble or didn't.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was all there. I was just dying to get away from having to
Deal with it.
having to mind my P's and Q's.
Yes. Yeah.
And when I got to the University of Chicago, I think McCarthy was already Army hearings time.
Yeah.
But the minute I got into the dormitory, there was a whole bunch of people that were sending soap to Washington saying, "Don't whitewash McCarthy."
Right. So you
You're
found,
like, yes, you found your people.
Yes.
You found your people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where I was. Now, did I know anything? I mean, later I did, because my second book is a novel that takes place earlier in Chicago. Later I found out about all kinds of things, like the gay clubs and stuff that were, which I did not know anything about.
So you know who told me about the drag balls in Bronzeville?
Who?
George Doris. Who?
George Doris.
Okay, George Doris, the husband of Jack Anderson, the founding editor of Dance Chronicle, who was a PhD student at Northwestern. And he said in 1957, he said, this friend of mine said, there are these drag balls in Bronzeville. Let's go. And they were kind of these interracial drag balls, started in the 20s, kind of carried into the early 60s. And I was like, oh my God. And then I found a historian who had written on them, of course, that he didn't want to write for our volume, but I reference him in the intro, which you might have read. But that was pretty separate from the Hyde Park that you were part of.
Right. And, I just have to mention, I did not know anything about the so-called Negro dance until I read Susan's book.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I was seeing other people in New York that were in the same period, I did not know about the people who were doing, like, the people that I read about there.
Yeah, Edna Guy and Allison Burroughs and that.
Never saw any of them. They didn't. I mean, it just was something that I didn't hear about. So
well, they were sort of written out of the history there.
Yeah. So.
But that's interesting. Oh, go ahead. I interrupted.
Yeah. So no. I probably did not know anything about the 30s in Chicago at that time.
Yeah. Fair enough. And so many of those people left in the early 40s, and that was.
But my mother hung out with those people on the South Side. And I don't know about the dancers, but she did, hang out with all the lefties on the South Side when she was in high school.
So she went to the Cube Theater probably, and did she ever mention something called the Cube Theater? I love that. Yeah.
But she had gay brothers, and they were totally closeted. So I think she did not see the gay life.
Okay.
But she did see the she went to wobbly rallies and things like that.
Sure.
So she grew up in Hyde Park. Your mom.
She grew up in Oak Park.
In Oak Park. Okay.
Yeah, she went. She was kept home, and then she went down with her brother, who was older, and he took her around. He was a med student at the University of Chicago.
Okay.
Can I ask another question about Eric, who's so important in your story, of course? Not only do we have him to thank for your dance career, what did he know? I mean, I know he was born in Austria, and I know he came here in the late 30s, around the time that you were born, with his family and studied medicine here. But did he have a sense of that Ausdruckstanz scene in German-speaking Europe? I mean, when you said you were a dancer, and he said, you have to dance, like, what was his image,
Well, he just thought I needed to do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it had anything to do. I don't think he knew anything about Ausdruckstanz.
Okay.
But in fact, it was quite an effort to educate him. He kept wanting to walk out of Merce Cunningham concerts. We saw, do you know Winter Branch? With that horrible score.
That horrible score.
Yeah, I mean, he never got to the point of saying, they're taking my money. What are they giving me? But which many people did. But no, then he, he liked to come to rehearsals and dance concerts and so on. No, rehearsals and, read his medical journals, but he got exposed to it all, what was being done all that time.
Yeah. So he didn't come with that sense of the German modern dance tradition.
No, he knew modern painting, not modern music, well, except for cabaret music from Vienna, But no.
Yeah.
No modern dance.
Yeah.
What about that? The literary side of what you were reading and what he was reading and your conversations as you're starting to go back into dance, which of this rich kind of literary experience you got to have at Shermer and at University of Chicago, what texts stayed with you or stay with you to now of that reading you did?
So,
What you talked about with him.
That's a different. There's a couple of different questions in there, so I have to keep them separate.
All right.
What I read at Scheimer, what I read with Eric, which was later. It wasn't
Yeah,
Scheimer and
sure.
Eric, it was much later. I mean, Eric and I just read, like we read Tolstoy together, and then we read modern novels together. We would tear them in half so that so that we could both be reading them at the same time. We read a lot of Joyce Carol Oates, and I don't know. And then he read a lot of modern Soviet stuff, like Quiet Flows the Dawn and so on. And I read it too, but with less enthusiasm.
Right.
And what I read at Scheimer that stuck with me, I don't think I was thinking much about what I was reading. I don't. I remember much more from the University of Chicago. I think, I was. I had to take a reading class because I didn't read fast enough, so I was getting remedial. I was in remedial reading.
Oh no.
And we had a very good English teacher that was blind, but was very good at just kind of getting you to look at what you were writing and paying more attention to it. So I remember him. I remember things like, in the beginning science class, where I'm not going to tell jokes now, but anyhow, it was a joke about how you figure out what is a cause and what's just an accidental connection. So I was mainly concerned with,
Boys.
But boys, yes. Yes.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I know we've gotten way off of our
Well, that's okay.
of our thing here. So maybe we should start talking about Vietnam story,
Okay.
because I know you've got some photographs and love to see those. I think you've got some other materials. This book seems incredible and maybe was an important source for you. But why don't you tell us just about what were some of the source materials for Vietnam story?
There was really just mainly two. This book actually has photographs and text, so you're able to kind of see it in two ways. And the reason the pages are falling out is because they were taken out to make slides for the show, and we had projected them. So when we were setting up the idea of a Vietnamese village, which is where it took place, we had in the background, authenticating photos. And of course, nobody then had ever heard of appropriation, so we didn't even have a Vietnamese consultant on this. There was nobody around that knew anything about Vietnam. And then the other one was the book by Jonathan, I can't remember his last name, called The Village of Ben Suc. In fact, I think I wrote the name of that on the back of it.
Yeah, I think you did, and I think when I was taking a picture of it, there it is, right there. The Village of Ben Suc by Jonathan Schell.
Yeah. You stick it back on the book.
There we go. Boom. Yeah.
That was a really good book that described what actually happened in Vietnamese villages.
Yeah.
At one point you asked me if I ever did political dance after that. I don't think so, but I did before that. I did the piece about George Jackson.
Yes.
And I also then did one based on a story by Maxim Gorky, called Mother, which was, I'm sure one critic called it sentimental, and I'm sure it was. And that's the only one I remember.
Yeah.
Were those doing the same kind of, in the same style of kind of bringing in multimedia, devised technique?
Well, first of all, those were both solos, so there was no devising. And
okay, yeah.
And secondly, what was the other half of that?
Yeah, just how this is sort of mid-60s where you're working on these pieces. The Gorky piece was in that.
Yeah.
So how were you thinking about the making of these pieces, the technique, the idea to bring in other elements besides just movement?
Well, I was always inspired by other things. I mean, like back at the last stage, I did a kind of movement thing that was based on the painting by, I think it's Matisse, that goes in five or six women dancing around.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So I got ideas from that, and then often I was inspired by music. I did a piece by Bartok called, does he have a piece called The Brazilian, or am I just making that up now? Le Brazilian,
Yeah.
something like that. And then I sometimes just did things based on, like prompts, you could call them, like
Yeah.
trying to get up and trying to get down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
A little more Judson school, sort of
Yeah.
like the Judson.
Well, I wanted to be like the Judson School, but I don't think I ever was. You know?
But did those ideas come from reading what was going on in New York, or were you thinking of those separately?
I'm sure when I read about what was happening at the Judson School, I was fascinated. And then Carter Frank, who became the associate
Right.
director of my company,
Right.
went to New York in the early '60s
Yeah.
and stayed
Okay.
there dancing with now I can't remember
Kenneth King.
Kenneth King, yeah.
Right.
And she stayed dancing with him for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So you're really soaking up things from these different traditions. By the 60s, you have, training coming out of Martha Graham, ideas from Martha Graham. You have these experiences of working with Neville Black in Jamaica. You have the Chicago kind of world. You're reading a lot and thinking about what's going on in New York City. And all of that seems to be feeding into
Oh yeah.
these works by then.
Oh yeah, a lot. And the Vietnam story was the first piece I did that really was devised, that really had a kind of a theater story. And also, at that time, Chicago was just going crazy with rebellion.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And my husband was very deeply involved in it.
Yeah.
And I was staying at home with two kids.
Little kids, yeah.
I had babies in '66 and '68.
Yeah.
I thought I should go downtown and demonstrate. I did not want to take the babies down there, but that was not the real reason. I used that as an excuse not to go because I know it would have gotten my father in trouble. And if Eric knew that I was doing it because I didn't want to get my father in trouble, he would be very mad.
Yeah.
So I was being politic. So I went out in the backyard with these books and stuff and just started, let the kids play in the yard and started dreaming up this piece.
Yeah. Wow.
And the part of it, can I show stuff now?
Yes. Let's show stuff.
The
That's
part
so
of
fun.
it, my favorite, you can see the idea of setting up the village here. There's very few of these are different. They're just copies. This is sort of Nana as the like the mother of the village, and all those people just sitting there are villagers, and I don't know what that other person was doing in there. I know who it was. I've forgotten his name, but he was killed in the IC crash of.
Wow.
Do you remember there was a big crash of the L or the IC? I'm not sure which.
Huh.
No, it wasn't the IC. It was the L.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Fascinating.
yeah.
And was this and Nana? Of course, you also you met, of course, in the course of your work. But was this the first work you did with Nana?
Yes, and I didn't dance with her for a long time, but I danced with her in a piece of hers also. I don't think it was ever performed, but she used to come. We were not here. It was in Hyde Park.
But when you had
my studio
when
upstairs.
you had your studio,
I remember rehearsing with her up there with.
Yeah. And that's Nana Shine Flute.
Oh, you asked if I ever choreographed anything with anybody. Neville and I together did the facade. I was crazy.
Oh, right.
I was crazy about facade.
Yeah.
And I don't know how closely we worked on it. We may have just each taken different pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
that was a
that was a co. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And you danced in a Nana piece. Yeah.
I don't think it was ever performed though.
Huh. Okay.
But in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we did perform much later, when Jan Urquhart did a piece
Right.
about the grandmothers.
Yeah.
That was
That's
me
lovely.
and Shirley and Nana.
I'm really sorry I didn't see that. Yeah.
What I discovered from that was how much people who have never seen dance before can understand it right away if there's words involved, and that you can call it whatever you want, but it's really because we did speak.
Yeah.
And then they immediately feel like they know what it's about, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. They can just enjoy it, kind of like the title of a painting, which also sometimes I just say I don't really want to know what it's called. But I was going to show you this picture because this is my favorite scene. This was an interrogation of villagers by American soldiers.
Wow.
And they what they did was they spoke, and it was very simple. It was just a little two-line thing: name, age, occupation. Have you seen any BC around?
Yeah.
And then they did that like in canon, so that it was being
Ooh,
repeated
yeah,
over and
yeah,
over
yeah,
again.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the movement part was something that I got from my husband, actually, who is not a mover at all. But when the kids were little, he would play with them a game when they were really little. He would sit them on his lap and say, "I'm going to wrap you up and send you off," and then put their legs together, cross their legs, and then folded them over, and then send you off to China. And then there'd be a long ride to China, and then they'd get out and admire the landscape and so on.
Very funny.
So that's what they were doing. They were making the dancers into packages and then rolling them off on the stage. So
And is this all in rehearsal or in performance?
well, given the curtain behind, I'd say it's in performance.
So it was so you did very bare costumes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't try to imitate Vietnamese dress.
Yeah,
which would have
you
been,
weren't trying
would
to,
have
yeah,
been probably even more appropriation.
Yeah. Fascinating.
You mentioned that you had a friend who had been in Vietnam, and this was where the leaflets
Right, he sent them
came
home.
from.
Amazing.
Yeah, he sent home a tape recording of just the sounds of the night, and that I couldn't do anything with because it wasn't. You couldn't tell where it was really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got the original leaflets. If you
I
haven't.
think we saw them in the digitized version.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I'd love to.
And you had them translated, as I recall.
No, we just made up what they said. I think based on the gestures, because they were obviously exchanging information for money.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
I'm fascinated now by the movement that was inspired by this sort of child game, but it does seem to me to connect with the making of the piece, where you're sort of caretaking for your children in the yard while also thinking
while your husband is off protesting and creating initiatives in Lawndale.
And the war, of course, is going on,
escalating
in this period. And of course, I was also struck at the stories about going to Asia. I never thought about that before, going to China.
So that was,
Which just is sort of associational, but...
Yeah.
But was there a reason why, well, I guess my question is just about that, about this mix of the domestic and the global at the same time. It seems from the little bit you've said so far, and reading a bit about your memories of it, this must have been very much part of the piece, or do you disagree?
Oh, well, inevitably it is. I don't think that it worked its way into the piece in any way, in any place except this one. But of course it was, I mean, because I would come down from rehearsal at the end of the day, and sit down in the kitchen, and the dancers would be there, and we would, eat something, or kids would be around, or kids would come up to the studio and watch the rehearsal. Maybe not at that point, because when they were older than that, a little older than that, but I have pictures of them from a later piece sitting there.
I saw that picture, that other picture. Do you want to be taking some photos here of these photos? I think that's important.
They're also unflat. Those are just.
And what about these?
Those are also, they're not from Vietnam. Those are also those are from the last stage. This is the Matisse piece. These are all the Matisse piece. And these are photos by Peter Weil, who was, you said I think Chrissy Rawson said she had seen photos with. He was a Hyde Parker, just like dance, and took a lot of photos.
And what about this one? Is that also from the Matisse?
Yeah, well, you can tell by the people.
Yeah.
Now, this guy on the right, Kermit Hopkins, he was the steel worker, and this was the this was the only thing he must have done other things. He danced too, but he worked all day as a steel worker in Gary.
Wow.
And Carol Laudenschlager, do you know her? Carol, she changed her name to Carol. How can I not remember it? She has a place in New York.
Shoot. Not Carol McCurdy, who's still
Carolyn Lord.
Oh yes, okay.
Yeah, she's here. She's in this piece. Here she is. Here she is. This is her right here.
Let's see.
She was at the University of Chicago. I think she was studying Russian or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And she still has that place where she teaches ballet. I think, but only to private people, because she's not allowed to have business there.
Fascinating. Wow.
So the Matisse piece is earlier.
That would be earlier. That would be at the last stage, yeah, before
at the
Vietnam.
last
Mhm.
stage. And I guess, did you feel like your process was changing from that piece to Vietnam Story?
You might
I'd say
wanna
it's more of an evolution.
take
You know, I was
these
because
were
they
the-
did. I'm
made
sure
the
that the
slides
dancers
from
did also,
those.
you know, help with the movement. It's not so much that they made up their own sections, but that they, like I showed them the painting, and I said, well, now you start here, you start here. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
how can you get from one to the next,
Next.
as you go
Yeah.
around it? You know, so yeah,
I'd love to see the leaflets.
yeah. They're in this thing called.
And was that the and was the when at what point in the action did the leaflets fall?
Oh, almost at the end. So
Almost
in other
at the end.
words,
That's what I had
so
thought.
we had,
yeah,
you know,
okay.
we had as much as we could, you know, sounds of helicopters overhead and so on.
Yeah.
And then the leaflets fell on the people, and that made them all stand up because, you know.
Yeah. They're like wondering.
And so
what
that's when we came out and said, get out, get out, get out, get out, and push the audience out of the place.
Power.
very powerful.
What was the feeling of, I mean, so are you developing this piece in 67, or is it after, or is it into 68?
I think it started in '68.
Okay, so it's after the Tet Offensive in January.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking
Well, because my son was born in February of '68,
okay, so it's after.
so it was just after.
It's really 68 into 69
Yes.
that this really is being developed.
Yes,
So,
and then '69 is when it was first performed, but it went on until about '71.
so it's an
Yeah.
interesting moment in the war because Nixon has come into office, and the Tet Offensive seems to me to have been a turning point in American perceptions, the American public perceptions of the war as a whole.
You mean they realized that it was a bad thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, many people knew this before that, but I think of that year as, of course, 68 is a dramatic year on many
Yeah,
On so
yeah.
many levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that being, as you're devising, working with the dancers in the studio, beginning to bring it out into performance? I mean, the emotion, what was your sense of the emotional experiences of doing a piece that was about this very fraught, tragic,
Well,
political situation?
it was what I wanted to do. I mean, that was exactly what my aim was, to protest the war, and I was glad I was able to do it. And as far as the dancers went, you know, Joseph Holmes was one of the soldiers with Richard at one point. You know, he's a black dancer. And I waited to see if anybody would object to what I was saying about the war, but nobody ever did.
And that was the other thing I wanted, because I mean, I know Nana was in that piece. She goes on to found her company in 72. Joseph Holmes goes on to found his company 74. Richard, by 1980, certainly had his own company. But when I read about their later works, they each had such a distinct style. You know, Joel Holmes was sort of almost Daley-esque, but at this point, had those later styles not really coalesced, and of course they were dancing in your piece, so they were doing your movements. But did you feel the difference in their kinds of training and what they were bringing? I mean, Arv was also working like with Ruth Page and her ballet company in the 70s.
Yeah, and teaching ballet and so on. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I was really. I always wanted people to move in the way that was best for them, you know. If I saw them doing something, even just when they were fooling around, I'd say, "Oh, let's use that," you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to make them move like me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Bringing out what was in,
Yeah.
you were noticing.
Yeah.
And there were other dancers in that piece. I mean, was there eight or 10 dancers altogether? Do you have the program?
I don't have a program, but there was not 8 or 10 dancers. There were just the ones that you see there. So
Okay,
it was
okay.
what, about 6 or something?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see him. Yep.
I-
Yeah, 6. 6
Yeah.
dancers, yes.
What was there a tension between a piece that was about violence and war and suffering and creating this experience with the dancers of a more democratic, I mean, the making of the dance was not like the making of the war.
Well, I should
Of
hope
course,
not.
right, exactly. So I'm just wondering, as a protest, as a form of protest, which was something that you had as a goal, did this come to the surface at all? This, kind of the dynamics of making a piece together with other people, and the topic, which was about a very different kind of relationship, or did you not really worry about that?
Well, I would say that my view of Vietnam at that time was that the Viet Cong were just brothers and cousins of people in the
Yes,
village, which
of
they
course,
were.
Of course.
And so I would say if they got along with each other, then we could get
I
along
see.
with each other too.
I
I mean,
see.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm only making that up now. I don't think I
Yeah.
thought of that at the time. But I mean,
Yeah.
that is really.
Yeah.
I didn't think we needed to fight each other in order
Yeah.
to make a piece about fighting.
Yeah.
So in other words, in a sense, as a company or as this group of makers together, you were imagining the other kinds of solidarities than the Americans who were often, being sent in. You were imagining these other forms of community that were being, in a sense, attacked by American military power.
Yeah. Well, that's why they call it the American War.
I was curious too about calling it a story. Why was it the Vietnam story? How did you settle on the title?
Oh, I just made it up. I mean, it's it was a story of one little village that got bombed.
Yeah.
First with leaflets, and then
With bombs.
but then actually reversed the story by pushing the Americans out.
Yeah.
Of the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Right.
so and that's something that I've always really cared about is crossing the art that crosses the barrier at some point between the made up and the real.
Yeah.
And that's so.
Yeah.
That still is fun in what I see or in what I do. It's I think that is just the most powerful thing that can happen.
So bringing the experiences in Vietnam as you were perceiving them into this kind of ambiguous moment in the theater where it's performance, but it's also a kind of enactment of the violence and of the attack.
Yeah. People don't want to be pushed out of the theater. They left their coat behind.
I know, that's so great. That is so great.
Powerful.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And then we were out in the audience, out in the lobby with the audience, so we could talk to them, which was also good.
Yeah, very
I could say,
fabulous.
and say, what were you doing? Good.
So do you remember responses in that moment in the
No, but I
Hard to
remember that it felt good to be able to talk to them
talk
at that
together?
moment.
Yeah. And I know you toured that work quite a lot. And do you remember kind of disparate responses in different places, or was it an audience that was pretty much kind of with you in terms of anti-war sentiment, so it was pretty similar, the response?
Well, we toured more later after that, and I do not remember touring much with that. That's why I asked both Carter and Marjorie if they remembered touring with it. Marjorie was in it. She said it was the first piece of mine she was ever in, so she wasn't in it at the very beginning. But Carter said that she remembered doing it in Alaska, which was under the dance touring program.
Yeah.
And that she thought the response was pretty friendly,
Right.
which is interesting because we had a big conflict there on a much different subject about exclusivity. They wanted to have a reception for us made by the people that the local dance presenter group, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
They weren't going to allow the people that had been studying with us to attend. And I thought we should say, no, we're not going to do it. But eventually we succumbed.
And okay, so students did or did not come to the reception in the end.
They did not come, and we did come.
Yeah.
So I'm actually ashamed of that. But
no,
anyhow,
but that's life under the NEA dance touring program.
Right.
So I wanted to circle around a bit where you said, yes, you were reading about Judson and it seemed so innovative, and yet as you also say, I think in one of your essays, that Yvonne Rainer's no to moving and being moved was not your aesthetic. And so I don't know, just if you wanted to talk a little bit more about what you feel differentiated your work from Judson.
Oh, well, if you say no to moving and to being moved, you might just sit still. I mean, so that I thought it was a good gesture of saying, we're not going to do all this stuff. But
Yeah.
but if the child of that is the people who do just this very, very athletic stuff now, and you know, I don't like that any more than I like jumping up and down because you can.
Yeah.
I mean, those are both bad things.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, I think there's wonderful work that's come from it. My gosh.
Yeah,
So-
of course. But the kind of work that is you feel is virtuosity for its own sake does not interest you. It doesn't interest me, frankly. But
Yeah. I mean, well, people do that now because so many people can do everything. You know, every technique and every athletic thing also.
yeah,
And then they jump up and down because they can. So.
Do you think, in a sense, you were taking some of these conceptual ideas that you were reading about and folding them into your sense of politics, of what you wanted to be doing with movement in that late 60s, early into the 70s period?
Trying to think of what I made then. I have a list of
you've
works
got a list.
choreographed.
Yeah, you've got it here. I think.
I mean-
It was here. I saw it, my dear. Well, hold on.
Sometimes it,
I want to make sure I. What's that? No, you had two lists. You had.
this is just my CV. And
I know, and this it's maybe here.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. And this is here's the anti-war. Here's
that's the review.
Was this in the Hyde Park Sentinel, or what was the mag was this in?
I think it was in the reader.
Oh,
I can tell by the typeface.
something at the top says Sentinel.
Oh, well, that would be the Milwaukee Sentinel.
That's the one that
okay.
was in after Meredith Monk came through. That was the part. Do you remember this line? It says,
okay,
after the horrendous
Oh
Meredith
no!
Monk.
Look, here it comes.
Well, see, we got to be the horrible also, but not with Vietnam Story. That was, I guess, I don't know if it was.
Yeah, you told us that funny. It was just body movement.
Yeah,
it was in
right,
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Right, exactly. That was dance touring program also. Okay, so I'm just going to go up here and see what is happening after this.
Wow.
I guess my question was kind of like, it seemed like, I mean, you're
I
bringing,
paid the price of all their rent
Yeah.
to Meredith Monk.
because there was not a lot of audience. You're beginning to. It seemed to me that. I guess I'm just curious about how you were thinking about bringing in what you were reading about coming from New York, with the other interests you had, the political interest, the interest in telling a story, what you didn't like about the New York stuff. I mean, how is all this mixing together for you? Did you care about the mixing together? What just kind of
I didn't. That's the kind of question that you would ask yourself later. You know,
Yeah.
what influenced me? But at the time, I just made what I felt like.
what,
you know,
what came to you? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, some of these things I know were not very good, and some of them were better. By 1971, I was involved in reading R.D. Lang,
Okay.
Right.
and my husband and I did a lot of thinking and reading about redefining psychiatry and psychology and so on.
Yeah.
So then so Roman Circus was the piece about George Jackson, and then I got involved in reading Sylvia Plath, obviously, and I did a duet with Carter about, it's called Purification for Sylvia Plath, and
Yeah. I'm gonna also go ahead. You take that picture, then I'm gonna take that picture too. Yeah.
these are a lot of. I did make a lot of structural pieces, probably influenced by Judson Church, like for instance, Solo for Three was a piece that had three different.
Nice. Yeah.
Three different. It could be done as a solo, or it could be broken up
Yeah.
into three parts. When it was broken up into three parts, each person took a turn doing a different part.
Yeah,
So they,
nice.
so that was very intellectual and not. I think that's what Liz Lerman didn't like about my work, although I did dance with her for a year.
Right. Yeah.
She said one time when I was responding to one of her prompts, she said, "Do you think one of you could at least pretend to be human?"
But what did she mean by that? I read I think you write about this in the.
I did.
I was thinking about, like, what did she mean by that? That you were.
Well, her work uses really easily identifiable gestures, and she does it really beautifully, and she's really good at it. And people that have worked with her and have took up learn from her are able to do that. Just take a sentence and
Yeah.
act it out. But I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was always just experiencing my body, and
So you mean you were trying to access other kinds of movement? I mean, it's still human. You were human. You were doing it, but she meant less conventionally.
she wanted it to be more motivated, I think.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Which is valid.
yeah.
That must have been super fun though, doing that tour with her at that time.
It was, yeah. It was. I was actually, that's when I was starting to write. So I was
Yeah.
writing at the same time.
Fabulous,
And she was, she was financed then. So, we got to stay in nice places. We went to Arizona and stayed in a place with a pool.
Yes, I know. How
That
fabulous.
didn't last very long.
So what other goodies are here? I know you've got
Oh,
other
but
things in
you
this
wanted
pile. The review. Here's that.
No,
Yes, we
but
got the review.
but
That was
you
fascinating.
wanted the leaflets, which is
Oh yes, I want to
they're
see the
in a-
leaflets for
they're
sure. They're in.
in a
Okay.
thing labeled leaflets.
Is there anything? Is Michael? Is there something on the floor there?
No, here.
I think it's
let's
in this
see.
folder.
Here we are. Leaflets.
Okay, leaflets. Okay.
What was turning on the Jews? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure. Oh, this is a really early one, but I don't think there's even a date on here. 78. This is a review by Charlie Vernon. He did not like what I was doing very much.
One of the founders of Lynx.
Right.
This was a piece about Vabron that was motivated, called Dies Irae, Days of Anger. It was very much motivated by the fact that he got shot at the very end of the war, by a
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are Wendy Perron's notes.
Yes, we see.
Yes, we got those.
Yeah.
These are fab. Yeah.
Okay, show you the original ones first. Seriously, you said you already seen these anyhow.
No,
Well,
I
I've seen
have
the
it.
digitized.
I have. Yeah.
This gives you the promise. Here's all these things. You're going to get shot. You're going to get bombed. But
my
there's an alternative in the middle of it, and that is the dollar sign.
Oh my God! It's just.
Now, so you would drop these on the audience. How did this work?
Well, they had something up there with a fan and a box of stuff. I don't know.
Oh, they would just blow it off with a fan,
Yeah.
not in a net or something.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
This is incredible.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh! Wow!
it is so evil.
Wow. Okay, I have to. Yeah. Then you got to take these for sure. Oh my gosh!
This is just between you and me and the lamppost.
Yeah.
When I told my son who works at
Wow.
Google that I was taking that name out, and he said, "Well, did you ask him? Maybe he wanted it to be left in." And
Yeah.
of course I should have, but I didn't. I was too late. It was the last day of editing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's.
This
And then this
also-
is the one that
this
you
is-
did.
No, that's an original.
Oh, that's. Oh, that's what we did. Oh my
And here's another original.
Oh, and these are your friend sent you.
Yep,
this, so
yep.
So we mailed these to you from
Yeah, from Vietnam.
Vietnam.
incredible.
And this has this has an English translation on the inside.
Yeah.
Save
okay.
yourselves and your children. God,
These have
I can't
English
even
on the
read that
back.
out loud. From dangerous minds and booby traps. Jesus.
Yeah.
Cannot read
Just- I know. It's just. It's unbelievable. And I know you're doing all these too, but I just like having just for my own notes. Wow. Wow.
Our imitation is not very authentic, but very creepy.
Wow.
Oh, this is the,
Okay, and then here's yours.
This is
Yeah.
our tip.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you hear the planes? Do you hear the bombs? Death, your death. Cooperate and chase the Vietcong away from the village. You will not be found again. It's so fascinating. Just fascinating. Yes, just fascinating.
At this point, when you're making the piece, did you know about the trials that were underway with the I'm forgetting his name. The war crimes that were committed. This is
Bye.
Oh,
68, 69. I think.
Ed.
Wasn't this before Me Lai?
My Lai.
Yeah, My Lai was where the trials was the massacre at My Lai.
That's
was where
already
people were-
starting to become in the news by then, I think, right?
I don't know. I didn't look up My Lai. I looked up there was a real obvious date, so I wouldn't get it totally wrong before
Right.
today. But I didn't look up My Lai.
Were you? I mean, what was your way of following the war? Were you watching television each night? Were you reading about it?
Oh
Or-
yeah, I mean the news was sort of
Yeah.
something you
Yeah.
did see. I mean, I think today some people think they can really avoid the news altogether, but
Yeah.
nobody did then. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we watched the news. Yeah, I know we watched the news. We had television because
Right.
that's when my first son was born. Is when we watched Do It a Child. I said, did you see both sides of this one?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Just very powerful. Did you get these? All of these?
I think we have scans
Of
of
all
from the
those.
first
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are these here?
Those are source materials. That's music.
Yeah.
Liberation Army.
Did you use this music in the performance?
Not that I'm aware of, but I might have, because it's you can't tell what it is, so it could be used for a lot of things.
Right.
Fascinating.
I might even I don't still have tapes from that time. I mean, what kind of tapes did we have then? Big old tape recorder
Reel
like
to
this,
reel, kind of. Reel to reel.
Reel to reel, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, audio.
Yeah.
The cassettes were just starting to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
used around that time.
Yeah.
In fact, in Vietnam.
Interesting that these were released by Chinese groups, kind of folk song groups.
Yeah.
That and that's something that a dance scholar named Emily Wilcox is doing some really interesting work on. The Chinese engagement. Kind of the global South connection, and that's really interesting. That's where this was coming from.
Well, the Vietnamese didn't like the Chinese.
Well,
Yeah,
they
but
were
the
getting
but the
supported
Chinese were, yeah,
we're supporting them in the war. No?
yeah.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Not as much.
Complicated.
Not as much as the.
But I'm just
Yeah, I
saying
think
that's
I
what's
would
so
like to
interesting
imagine.
about these.
Well, that's why I'm wondering. what
these are manufactured in China.
Yeah,
That's
these
the
are.
whole
These
point.
are. Do you know where you got these from?
No, I was.
So
But
that's
you had them at the time. You
Yeah,
had these.
yeah,
These
yeah.
are what you were listening to.
Yeah.
Interesting.
so interesting.
See, there's
Who
no-
did the music? Who did the music or the soundscape for Vietnam Story?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
There probably wasn't much. Well, there was the sound of the helicopter. There must have been music. I probably got it from these. If there's some that were, I probably did.
So there was a score of some kind. For the
Yeah,
piece.
probably must have been.
yeah, because the review very much says that there was a quote ritual. So there was some sort of ritual,
Yeah.
something that read to the audience as ritual.
Yep. Yeah, that's what they were doing in the village. Like it was morning, and I guess whatever they did in the morning, I had found out was,
Yeah. Yeah.
something or other.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Democratic Republic of Vietnam in China, so they must
Yeah,
have had
yeah.
organization.
It's so interesting. And like I say, the Chinese at this point were, doing
Oh,
the
here it
kind
is.
of-
Here it's translated into French, so at least we
Yeah.
can see what.
But that the Chinese were very much interested in, collecting all of these folk song, these folk sources from other global South, countries. And,
There are many histories of colonialism going on here.
right, yeah,
Multiple
no,
layers.
exactly. Yeah, multiple layers. Fair enough. Fair
Here's
enough.
how-
From my understanding of the history.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not an expert on this area, but
Here's the soldiers of the Vietnam People's Army like to compare the artillery to the big elephant.
Mm.
So they have a piece called The Big Elephant.
Mm.
And then there's one that I bet I could have used, which is a flute recital called Bright Shines the Moon in My Village.
Mm.
But, this is so long ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But now I'm understanding better that in a way you were interested in this piece, or tell me is this true or accurate? You were really interested in this idea of this one village, of village life, of a kind of the experiences of the war from the level of
The everyday people.
everyday people in a more rural kind of.
Well,
village
yeah, I mean, that is where life is, no? It's just like,
Yeah.
just like if this helicopter started roaring overhead
Yeah.
right
Right.
here.
Which they have with ice, but we won't go there. Though, didn't we want to talk a little bit about some of the?
Oh, that was kind of
Contemporary residents.
Christie's question was your if you remember from our Zoom, was your thoughts about making political art then and your sense of political art, political dance now in Chicago, beyond Chicago? How do you think about this question of
Well, I thought
politics?
about that a lot because you asked me, and at
Right.
first it seemed like it would be simple, but it's not. So the first of all, I think that Christie's statement was then was so different from now, and of course there are ways that it was, but the way that I think it's similar is just that our country is making a mess of itself, you know,
Yeah,
and
that's for sure.
it's ruining things for its own population and its immigrant population, and for other countries also, you know, because of all the aid programs that have been cut back now. Although we're not at war with anybody, we're blowing up their boats, you know. And they are also similar in terms of support for the arts, because we put the money into the Vietnam War then, now we put the money into the military and blowing up the boats and so on, and threatening with war in Venezuela. So in that sense it was similar, but it was also, seems to me, that it was quite different in that people at that time were really enthusiastic about making political statements. And some of them, and a lot of them were artistic. And even the ones that weren't artistic had a very performance aspect. Like think about Abby Hoffman, or even the self-immolation is kind of like suicide as a performance, you know.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of performance then. You think of the music, think of Phil Oakes and
Yeah,
Pete Seeger
absolutely.
and all of that. And you don't hear that today. I
Yeah,
mean, artists are not doing protests. Other people maybe, but artists are not
That's interesting.
doing protests. So then I went around and asked a lot of people in different ones, two in the sciences and one in the arts. Do you feel, because I was thinking that maybe people were less afraid then than they are now. And I said, do you feel like you have to self-censor? And the one in the arts said, yes, if you want to get the grants, you better shut up.
Yeah.
And the one in the sciences said, and although he's a very independent person and does not normally self-censor at all, he said that, if he's sitting in a meeting, which he doesn't usually because he works from home, if I'm sitting in a meeting, I have to get the sense of the people around me before I say anything about the craziness that's going on, either in the company or in the world.
Yeah.
And the third one was in the sciences, but felt she was already losing her job because the current administration doesn't care about science. And she said she never self-censors. She says whatever she thinks, but I think she thinks her job has already gone down the tube. So I would say people are scared today, but I don't think that's the only reason why they don't make political art. Because I mean, now whether they needed to be scared then, I don't know, because that's, I wasn't in a position to really know. I mean, when the Chicago police developed this Red Squad, and my husband had a free medical clinic that originally was run by the Panthers. They did come around, the Red Squad, because they were looking at anything that was integrated and, and that was suspicious.
Yeah.
And actually, some people reported that they had been offered money for information.
Wow.
Right.
Because there were a lot of volunteers there, because all the people that were treated were also expected to do some work there. And so all those volunteers, there was a lot of them they could approach. And I don't know if anybody ever accepted it, but they did report back that they had been offered money for information.
Yeah.
So then I began to think, well, maybe now is more like the 50s and people are really scared, because I have friends that are scared for no reason, like they don't have jobs and they don't have, and they're just afraid to contribute money to democratic causes, and I think that's crazy. I mean, it's if you're not looking for a grant and you don't have a job, there's nothing to be scared of. Nobody's going to come around and ICE. You have to be careful you don't let them in because
exactly.
Now I have writing friends now who have been doing the ICE watch at schools, and that is dangerous. You're not in danger of being executed by Trump. You're in danger of being detained and sent to some bad place. And the orientation is very scary to me because you have a choice. You can just be there, which is one risk level. You can have a whistle, second risk level.
Yeah.
You can take videos, third risk level.
Yeah.
So things are definitely getting scarier. So maybe it's getting to be a bit more like the 50s. But then I read Jill Lepore's essay, which I may have mentioned already.
Which one?
It was a recent one in the New Yorker, or I don't know how recent it was, but somewhere in these papers I have the copy of the first paragraph of it, which is a wonderful piece of writing. She's just saying people are always comparing Trump to other people, but you can't do that, because because it's never been like this.
Yeah, I did see that piece. Yeah.
Did you read that first paragraph? It's
Yeah.
a masterpiece of writing.
No, well, she's such, very, fascinating.
It was hysterical. It made me laugh. At the end, she says, "Shall we compare thee to a summer's day?"
Just what? Oh, go ahead. I interrupted.
No,
Well, I just had one small detail that I'm now thinking about with the making of the piece. The previous piece that you were making about George Jackson, were you doing similar devised work? How was that piece similar or different from
The Roman
Vietnam
Circus.
Story? The Roman Circus.
It was a solo,
That's the solo, right? Okay.
Yeah.
and so was the Maxim Gorky piece.
So,
Yeah.
as a solo, were you bringing in any other elements, or was it really just dance with minimal?
Oh no, I frankly I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure I must have had some words, some way of identifying what was going on.
So there were other elements, but not as much theater as Vietnam Story.
Well, yeah, it was one person that you'd have to be like doing a real monologue, which I don't think I was
Yeah.
able to do.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I was doing in there. I don't remember it at all. It's a really long time ago, and I don't think anyone ever saw it. I mean, it must have been performed it somewhere, but
Right.
and that was before. I think it was before I even met Carter. I don't know.
One other question, this is in a sort of different direction. So many people you worked with, left Chicago. Nana stayed, Joseph Holmes stayed, Richard stayed, but I was kind of putting
not for
together.
long. He left pretty soon.
And then I was, Neville went back to Jamaica, Trencha and Carter and Carolyn Lord went to New York City, Helga to Western New York, from what I can tell. Marjorie Sinikiewicz, she went to Oregon.
But yeah, she did stay here a long time.
Yeah, she was still here in 1980. I did notice that. I was just doing internet research. Diana Conforti to California. I think Beth Leonard to academic administration. So just, I mean, look, every move is its own story, is its own set of push and pull. But, was there a period where you felt like a lot of people were leaving, like at the end of, like, in the early 40s, a ton of the popular front folks in Chicago left, right? Catherine Dunham left, Richard Wright left, a number of others. But anyway, so was there a period of time where you felt like, was it the 80s? Was it was there a time where you felt like, oh my gosh, all these people who had kind of come together and done this interesting work with you now were kind of leaving, or was each story just its own story?
Well, I did feel like, I kept losing company members, but that is just universal in dance, like Liz Luhrmann says, if somebody stays with you for 3 years, that's a miracle, because they're not even getting a salary, So I did feel like people were going. And then I think there was a period really when I think I didn't really produce any interesting work. I kept doing it, but I don't think it was very interesting. So
After the death of your daughter, or would you feel that, or
no? There were some good pieces after that. I did one called Travels and Farewells.
What you write
Beth
about?
was in that. Beth and Marjorie were both in that, and I think Diana Conforti. So I thought that was good. And the Dies Irae piece, and the which I performed with the Blue Gargoyle, which was kind of great. What was the other one that I thought of? Oh, the Webern piece.
Yes.
I think I did those all on the same program, and they were all kind of that was kind of like a death bucket. I think I wrote about that. All these other people were dying, So that part was okay. It was after that it kind of got dried up, I think.
Yeah, I was very struck by how you said that at a certain point you just realized you weren't thinking through movement anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a difficult time also. That was when poor Alita was trying to run the company, Alita Szabo. And because she had to, my husband really didn't want me to go on that tour in the middle of winter because I was pregnant with Erica.
Yeah.
And so I stayed home, and so she had to deal with all that. And by then they were not enchanted by doing children's shows. They thought it was the biggest bore in the world. Those children's shows were good, by the way. There was one for elementary school kids, and then one for like junior high or whatever. And they were good, and they were very well received, and they were something we could do on a regular basis at the Body
Yeah.
Politic when we were there,
Yeah.
and brought in audiences.
Yeah.
And we would add to those pieces that were things that were suitable for kids, but not
Yeah.
necessarily just for kids.
Yeah.
But when they had to go on tour to places that were cold and dark, and it was winter and so on, and it was really hard for Alita to have to shepherd all those people without me there. So, but they went and they came back at least.
Yeah.
And Alita's still a friend.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was really hard for her to put up.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking of Chicago kind of things now, and the body politic as a important place and moment in all of this. But it seems like that's the same period when some of the, like, that's when Mo-Ming is sort of getting going. Is that right? Or is that a little later?
No, Mo-Ming
So about
was
the same time.
You were at Body Politic in the 70s, and that was definitely Mo-Ming was definitely happening.
And
Yeah.
the Sagans are beginning to do their dance festival.
That's in the mid 60s. The Sagan Festival was 65,
that's
66,
earlier.
67.
Oh, that was earlier.
Yeah.
That's earlier.
That's
Okay.
I mean, that was a big influence on me because I got to see a lot of companies that I hadn't seen.
Right.
Negrin, I had not seen,
Yeah.
Right.
And actually, interestingly, what the Sagans did became a kind of prototype for the NEA dance touring program.
So it
Interesting.
precedes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
But I guess I was curious about this 70s moment, which is this transition moment, as you were just saying, and the kind of Chicago, the world of these theaters and spaces, Mo-Ming and Body Politic, and soon Lynx will come along. And
Yeah.
Well, Mo-Ming was. Mo-Ming, my piece, City, whatever it was called, just City, I guess, was designed for Mo-Ming originally because it had different things in it. So this was very like environmentally determined stuff.
Yeah.
And that was fun. We used, there was a kitchen dance, and there was a bathroom dance, and there was a leaping around and my very practical father said, well, I was worried about the leaping around there. They're going to hurt somebody. But, you got to learn to duck. But then we did that a lot. In other places, we just would adapt it to different places. So we did a lot of it outdoors in the summer. We did it on Lincoln Avenue, and we did it down at this, things like the big city center places and
Nice. Yeah.
stuff like that. And that was fun. We had to be very careful about not burning our feet in the summer.
Yeah. So you're just trying to get a sense of the vibe of the 70s.
It seemed like there's this,
that there's
building
a lot
on your
happening.
question, Susan,
Yeah, there's a lot
there's a
happening.
transition that happens, or maybe even a generational, a little bit of a transition.
Maybe. I don't know, because I just kind of stayed with it wasn't until my daughter really got into arts administration that I discovered, that she knew all these new companies and I knew all the old ones, and they were
Right.
totally different.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it was a good combination.
Yeah.
That's more into the
That would be the
90s.
90s.
yeah.
Into the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, actually, that would be even later than that because
Okay.
she came back to Chicago in 2010. So that was fun.
Oh wow.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. So that's what took me back to seeing Ailey again and seeing
Right,
all these things that she'd never seen.
Yeah.
It was really that was really great.
Yeah.
And then companies that I still haven't seen, like Visceral and all kinds of different ones.
I guess I had one more question, then Susan, you may have more, but I was thinking a lot about your later turn in your faith and kind of liturgical things, and I just wondered about how you think about the connections or the differences between a piece like Vietnam Story, which we're talking about as a political piece, and the later interests you had in things that you were kind of naming more as religious or spiritual. Of course, I was thinking about how there were connections as well, but how do you think about that?
Well, I can give you a real intellectual answer, like the social gospel, is very political.
True.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get people on their feet, which was getting people to move. I mean, really, the idea that most people just think they say you check your body at the door,
Right.
So the kind of the activating bodies, all the bodies in the spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, So yeah, it wasn't too different. When I did these organ and dance concerts, I had a whole community dance company that was part of it, and then so it was always just trying to involve more people.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not basically different, but
But in some ways, yes. But in other ways, I mean, I was also really struck online. I found one of those books digitized that the NEA had used for the dance touring program. They send these books out, and here are all the companies that can go on the tours. And I think I wrote this down. You had a wonderful.
I don't think I ever even saw that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You can find a lot of things online, as you know. So you said, hold on. I know it's here. Okay, hold on just a sec. Oh gosh. Okay. So the profile for in that NEA dance touring kind of booklet said you wrote, quote, "The company is interested in reaching out into communities which have not seen this type of work before and views dance as involved in the life of people rather than as an isolated art form."
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was me.
That was you. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
I would have said that.
Yeah. And did you feel that was a kind of minority view in the 1970s in Chicago, or more broadly shared?
Well, I'm not going to get my words right because I want to say which is narrow and which is wide. It was in the church. It's a very limited view. No.
Yeah.
So, no, it was that was what Liz did. She went into communities, and really was great at getting people to dance.
Yes, that's a real connection between you and Liz for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that. When I found that, I was like, oh my God, I love this. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I like it too. I didn't even know I said it.
Whoever said that. That's smart.
Do you, Maggie? Do you have? I feel like we've had quite a good, vigorous conversation, Sean. I don't know how you feel from your perspective, but I don't know any other thoughts, to share or questions for us or.
I don't think so. I mean, all I've been thinking about as far as this goes in recent times was what you had just asked me about, are these times different or the same, and what does it feel like to look back? I mean, it feels like that I regret that people are not interested in doing, like, I didn't even know that Yvonne Rainer danced Trio A in the nude with a flag around her head. I mean, nobody thinks about doing that now, and I think that would be great if people would do that, But maybe Jill Lepore is right that you cannot compare times, and that this time is unprecedented. So stop trying to compare it to anything else.
Well, it's a real challenge, and I'm always thinking about the comparisons to the rise of the Nazis, which I know your husband experienced, my father experienced, and it's a very tough. And to what extent is that normalizing what shouldn't be normalized? It's very hard. It's very hard. And when Northwestern signed this agreement to get back the $790 million, they made some real compromises. Northwestern, the university,
gave it back because they wouldn't do what they wouldn't. Well,
they Northwestern finally signed a contract with an agreement with the Trump administration, and they've had to stop, transgender care for youth under 18 at the hospital. They've had to go back on the agreement that they made with the pro-Palestinian protesters. And, were they totally co-opted, or are those necessary compromises that you have to make politics work? I mean, that's a question.
Or is it extortion?
Or is it an extortion? Yeah, So I'm just, like I say, it's just very. I think it's a challenge of this moment. I think that's one of the challenges.
Well, I've become a little bit more respectful of the compromise because my father was a real politician, and I didn't like his compromises at all, but he accomplished much more in his life than I ever will. I mean, in the way of social justice. He was able to get into places of power and do good things.
Yeah. No, and now we kind of look back and think, like this is when the Congress worked, compromise, and yet, compromise can have a very bad, bad taste as well. So that's what I've said is one of the many challenges of this moment.
Yep.
But Maggie, you have lived such an extraordinary life. And I was just saying to Michael as we were driving down, I just have so much respect for the way whatever life handed you, you kind of dug into it and made something very real. And we are so thrilled that
Well-
you were willing to share all this with the Chicago Dance History Project.
Well, thank you very much, and I certainly appreciate both of you spending this time and talking a lot. It was fun.
Yeah, it's totally fun.